Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host. I'm a filmmaker on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode I pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on streaming. I pick a favourite film from that topic and battle it out against a guest to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 1. Hello, podsters or podronies, if you prefer. We are back again for another episode of the podcast. But this time we are not relating the episode to a film release or a streaming release, but we are returning to our Legends episode, and we are continuing our sort of James Bond Legends episodes, and this time we are talking about the legend himself, Mr. Sir Roger Moore. So we're doing Roger Moore Bond films, and of course I'm joined by our very own James Bond expert, continuing this sort of series of podcasts, Brian from the Reviewing History podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Always happy to get the chance to talk some James Bond.
Excellent stuff. If the listeners don't already know, tell us about your podcast and where can we find you, sir?
Yeah, so Reviewing History is my podcast. We watch historical movies and we tell you what's real and fake in them as we make dick and fart jokes. It's fun, it's light, you'll learn something, but hopefully you laugh more. That's kind of what we're going for. We're the sugar in the teaspoon of history, of learning, where we try to be the sweetness to help that educational stuff go down. So it's fun, it's light. You know, we have over 200 episodes. We also have a Patreon where we talk about things not related to history. You know, it allows us to talk slasher movies and sci-fi, whatever we want. So it opens our world for us. We post everything that's come out there and we get weird and creative. So that's like our little playground that we get to play with. The main show is just history and laughs, and it's Reviewing History. Anyway, you get your podcast. We've had tons of guests on. We've had Mark Norman, the stand-up comedian. We've had the Tell 'em Steve Dave guys a bunch and people from that world. You can look at our website and see some of the guests we've got. We're always trying to find new people, so it's a fun time. Reviewing History, Review History Pod on Twitter, Reviewing History Pod everywhere else. Check it out. And I'm Brian Rupert everywhere. So, you know, Letterboxd, you can see everything I'm watching. Twitter, Instagram, Brian Rupert, that's with 2 P's. Follow me all those places too.
Excellent stuff. Have you covered the Odyssey yet? Or was that too early? It was kind of...
So we did Troy. Did Troy.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, nice.
We did Troy, one of our earliest episodes. Like, I think it's like episode like 35 or something like that. You know, and we spoke about the fall of Troy, how it was a real place. And we touched on the Iliad a bit. But the problem with doing the Odyssey is that, you know, it's like, imagine if we told a story about the D-Day invasion and then like these guys went off after the D-Day invasion and they're encountering monsters and stuff. Yeah. And like, it's like, all right, well, none of that's real. So... That's the problem with touching the Odyssey in general.
Yeah, did you see that news article, I think, by Variety, like this, I can't remember her name now, but
Emily Wilson. She did.
Yeah.
She interpreted the version of the Odyssey that they did for the movie.
Right. And she like gave it a scathing review, apparently.
Yeah, she hated it.
Which is kind of funny.
Well, I haven't seen it, but my understanding is that in the real Odyssey, Ulysses is like a real piece of shit. He's, you know, like years later when Dante does Dante's Inferno, like not Dante, forget the writer, Alighieri is the last name. But when he does the Dante with the 3 circles in hell and stuff, in the lowest pit of hell, like with Brutus and stuff, is Ulysses. So he's not viewed as a good guy historically through, a traditional Christian values, society, Western civilization lens. And I think that in the Nolan version, it's him reconciling with that. And I think that was Emily's main gripe, is that Ulysses isn't a complete piece of shit in the way Nolan handled it. That was my kind of understanding of it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, Odysseus. Yeah.
Well, I'm calling him Ulysses. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I think one thing she mentioned was that like the food looked disgusting and like there was no sex scenes in it at all. But and like Chris Nolan was kind of intentionally kind of sort of bringing a more of a modern sort of aesthetic to it anyway. I mean, you just got to look at sort of Agamemnon's armor to get that across.
Yeah.
Basically Batman in ancient Greek, but there we go.
Yeah, I mean, Nolan is not going for historical accuracy in this. So
no, absolutely not. I mean, I'm not sure. Certainly with like the armor, I don't think, because it was very much like bronze tin cans. They look like, and I don't think that would look amazing on screen. I know certainly Troy did their best to like adapt that sort of the armor for the Trojans and the Greeks and that. But yeah, I think for me personally, I think Christopher Nolan went in the right direction.
No, real quick, Nolan has his own aesthetic, and anything Nolan's going to do is going to have the Nolan's look of it. Like just looking at the trailers, it's like, and I saw some BTS footage, and they're shooting on like these beautiful blue waterways. And it's like gorgeous where they're shooting. And then you look at the trailer and it's like through that muted Nolan lens. And it's like, oh, okay, that's the Nolan style.
Yeah. Just turning down the saturation, pretty much.
Yep.
But you can hear most of the dialogue, mostly, which is good.
Well, that's a step up from usual.
Yeah. Anyway, we are here to talk James Bond films, in particular Roger Moore James Bond films. When kind of, people talk about, James Bond and their favorite James Bond films and their favorite James Bond actors, I feel like certainly for younger people, especially, I guess, that Roger Moore never really is at the top of people's lists. Maybe sometimes, fairly, I would say. He's not my Bond that I grew up with. He's not my favorite, but he has made some really enjoyable films, especially in his first three, I would say. And then my personal favorite James Bond film is actually Fiore's Only, and we have talked about that on the podcast in the past. I don't know. I know it's kind of a weird one to have as my favorite, but
that's really, I've never heard that before. I love that though. That's really interesting.
It kind of has everything you want. It's kind of a little bit scary. You got underwater stuff. You got skiing. You got kind of creative action. You got Roger Moore like really being serious in the role for a good majority of it. A great Bond girl. He's like, working as in a team for sort of arguably the first time, like properly in a team. Great song. Yeah, I guess it kind of leans a tiny bit into the kind of more horror with some sequences, especially how it's shot with that underwater sequence. Yeah, it's just always been my favorite. But then after that, it kind of just gets a bit. He should have stopped then. After Fiore's Only, for me.
If he leaves there, he's leaving on a high. Yeah. But we get after that. It's like it's so funny because it's like Moonraker is bonkers silly, and then we get For Your Eyes Only, and it's like the snap back to reality.
Yeah,
and then Octopussy and View to a Kill are both batshit crazy again.
Yeah. But and like A View to a Kill is definitely my worst Bond film for me. For the main reason is that poor Roger Moore just looks so old in the role, the poor guy. They really should have changed to Timothy Dalton earlier. But where does like Roger Moore kind of sit with you in sort of the James Bond legacy?
So it's funny. Look, I have to be clear. I love every single one of the actors that has played Bond. You give me a Bond movie over almost anything else, I'm going to pick the Bond movie to watch every day of the week. So it's not a criticism of Roger Moore, but he is my least favorite of the Bonds. And I think it's that his portrayal gets way too silly. And like I've read the Fleming books and I love Fleming, and like there's a place for a little silliness and a little like levity and comedy and like dry wit, like Connery does it perfectly at times, and he has his silly moments as well. But I think for me personally, I think that if they kept him more I'm looking for the right word. They kept him more rough instead of more the Adam West James Bond. I think he would have had a better run overall. But again, I think for a generation of people, he's their Bond and they love him.
Yeah.
And he's hugely influential this run. Like, you can see Brosnan took a lot of this tone. I view Brosnan as like the best of Bond. He's not my favorite, but his Bond has little elements of everyone else, and it's like this perfect amalgamation where it's like, oh, that's a little Roger Moore, that's a little Connery, this sprinkle of Dalton. So I think the silly, campy element that we see in Brosnan definitely comes from the Moore run.
I guess Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan is definitely sort of my Bond that I kind of, where I first got into James Bond, I guess, with GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies, etc. The first film I saw at the cinema, James Bond film I saw at the cinema was Die Another Day, which obviously is unfortunate, but but it never really tainted my love growing up for James Bond, you know. So yeah, for me, like Roger Moore has always been. I wouldn't say he's my least favorite James Bond. For me, that's still probably George Lazenby. Even though he has that's a really good film. That would probably be in my top 10 Bond films on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Roger Moore has some really fantastic films in his catalogue for sure, and some really bad ones as well. But let's go with your pick first then, Brian.
All right. So this is, for a lot of people, they'll say this is one of the worst Bond films. It's often ranked bottom of the list and people don't like it.
Right.
It's probably my favorite. I think it is. It's my favorite Roger Moore Bond film. And it's the one where I feel the most like this is a continuation of the Connery character. This Bond is rough. He's mean. He'll do whatever he has to do to get the job done. He's under a tremendous amount of pressure.
Yeah.
I think the villain is utterly fantastic. One of my favorites. I think that the Bond lair is one of the most unique and weird in the whole series. The locations are fantastic. And it has the coolest stunt in the entire franchise. Yeah. It is ruined by a goofy sound effect.
Yes, I was going to say, like,
cool
apart from one thing. The fucking sound effect.
Yeah, it's like, what were you doing, guys?
Yeah. Yeah, it's an incredible song.
But this is the one I always revisit. And, you know, I'm a millennial, so I grew up playing GoldenEye. So the Golden Gun, you know, that GoldenEye is my introduction to it, and the Golden Gun in that, this one-shot weapon built up this mystique in my head. And then you see the movie and like the Golden Gun is there. It's Bond against the Golden Gun. You know, it's cowboy shit. And I absolutely adore the end of this film. I love Hervé Villechaize as Knick Knack, an underrated henchman. I think he's so fun and he has a great motivation, and like the way he works is pretty fantastic, where, you know, he kind of wants to help Scaramanga, but he also is like out for himself and he's hoping Scaramanga loses. It's a really unique motivation, and I wish that he had been adapted into GoldenEye 64, because if people complained about Oddjob, if we had Knick Knack, forget about the fights that would have occurred.
There was one game though, I feel like where they did have Knick Knack in there somewhere. I can't remember which game
was. It 007 Racing?
Maybe like Nightfire or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, like the GoldenEye games, like you always go for like Oddjob, don't you? You're like, yeah, you have a free weapon like no one else has.
Yeah. The aiming was off. So that was the thing with Oddjob when you played, because the game, you know, it was like an early FPS, so like it wasn't like everybody aimed, so it had like a lock-on aiming thing. But the thing with Oddjob was he was like shorter than the natural like aim sensor area, so you would have to directly manually aim down or look down to get him. And if you were Oddjob, you had a big advantage because no one was locked onto you right away.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't really think about that, the game developers, I guess. Oh well, it was awesome, that game. So what happens in The Man with the Golden Gun, Brian?
In The Man with the Golden Gun, and this is a complicated as hell plot, so I'm going to try to get it right. I mean, I've seen this movie a million times, and I still kind of get confused. But James Bond is sent a golden bullet with 007 carved on it. And basically, MI6 is like, it looks like this hitman Scaramanga is coming for you, and he's marking you that he's coming to kill you. And Bond's like, no one knows what he looks like, but we've spotted him around this area. So you're gonna go to like Thailand or Vietnam, I forget. It's Thailand, and you're
He
gonna
does
go
have a
there,
third
and you're
nipple.
gonna try to Yep, he has a third nipple. That's the only gadget in the movie is James Bond's third rubber nipple.
Yeah.
That's the only identifying feature of him, and you're going to go undercover. You're going to try to get him before he gets you, basically. And along the way, he gets caught up in this plot about solar power and the solar power company and this MacGuffin, the Solex agitator. And it turns out that Christopher Scaramanga is going to take over this company, and he's going to use it to have a laser weapon from the sky, which he'll be able to use to kind of take over the world, essentially. And it's up to James Bond to stop him. And the culmination of the movie is this one-on-one duel between James Bond and Scaramanga, basically for the fate of the world. And it's fantastic. I love it. I love how he outsmarts him. I like the Bond girl in this one too. I know people don't like
Maud
Britt
Adams,
Eklund that much in this. Yeah. Well, there's Maud Adams is in it.
Yeah.
She returns as Octopussy later. But I adore Britt Eklund in this. First of all, I think she's beautiful. Obviously, she's a Bond girl. But I also like kind of that portrayal of her, where she's like a newer agent. She's newer to MI6, and like she's heard the legend that like James Bond is the woman's ladies man, and like he's gonna give you the time of your life, and like her motivation is like, I want some of that, but I'm also an agent, and I like that. I like her portrayal.
Yeah. She's an interesting one. She's sort of like the klutz fool character, which I guess looking back at it now, it is not the best, I guess, but with like female characters when you look back. But yeah, she's really entertaining of what she's given, for sure. Yeah, so my initial reaction to this one, there's a lot to love in this, and I think what's kind of great about this for me is Christopher Lee, the villain, one of the strongest villains I think Bond has produced, and just a great idea with the golden gun, that it's kind of very kind of James Bond like for himself. The fact that he has to like combine like a pen, a lighter, cigarette case for the butt of the gun to actually create the gun, and it only uses one bullet. All kind of the mythos around Scaramanga, I think, is really, really great. And it's certainly the one Bond film where the villain is, I wouldn't say like center stage, but he's kind of the main draw to this film compared to a lot of other Bond films. Whereas like other Bond films, it's more, well, James Bond himself, and it's sort of the plot and the sort of the production design as well. And this is kind of the one Bond film as well, I'll certainly get into it, but where like like everyone knows who James Bond is. He's not really a spy in this. It's kind of a weird sort of ridiculous situation for a spy movie, but it's kind of really fun in that way that everyone knows who he is. So yeah, there's a lot to love in this, and there's a lot to be kind of frustrated by as well. But yeah, I think for me overall, it's kind of a mixed bag. So yeah, it's very enjoyable. It's not really my go-to. It's not really my go-to like Roger Moore film, I would say. But yeah, there's a lot to love in this.
Yeah, I think the film is super messy. It's all over the place. I think we're firmly in the spot now where James Bond started as the innovator, but now it's taking influences from the outside world. So it's like, once you get to post Diamonds Are Forever, it's like, okay, what's popular in the world? All right, we're going to do a blaxploitation flick, and they do Live and Let Die. And now we're in the era where it's like, kung fu movies are getting popular and things like that. So it's like, okay, let's do a James Bond martial arts film, but it doesn't really fit, but we're going to throw it in there, and we're going to have a whole bunch of scenes with it to add some martial arts flavor. So it's like they add these elements to kind of try to adapt to what's popular rather than just doing another James Bond movie. They add these other flavors. And like this continues well on. Like License to Kill is such a sci-fi. They're doing Star Wars. Yeah, Moonraker is it's a Star Wars movie. License to Kill is like a Lethal Weapon James Bond movie. You know, it takes them a while to kind of get back to doing classic James Bond stuff. And I mean, they never really dropped the trend. Like Casino Royale is basically a direct response to the Bourne movies.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I feel like it is a little bit more faithful to like what the identity of what a Bond film is, even though it feels very stripped back with all the other kind of classic elements that you associate with Bond.
Everything is there, but it's not done in the traditional Bond way that we've grown accustomed to at that point for like 20 movies or whatever. So it's like everything is there, but it's so muted and below the surface. It's like the first time I saw it, I was like, there's no gadgets in this movie. And I was annoyed because I love Bond so much. But then, you stop and think about it. It's like, oh, no, there's the defibrillator gadget and it's there, but it's not this ridiculous, car that like will shock James Bond back to life or something. You know what I mean?
They just trashed the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it did hold the record for the most tumbles for a while. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I love that crash.
Nice record. So oh, it's fantastic, especially in the cinema the first time. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah. But yeah, the draw for like Casino Royale was Daniel Craig. That was why people were really it'd been a long wait, I guess, but Daniel Craig was the main draw, I guess, really.
Yeah, it was that going back to Fleming and putting out such a high quality movie that, it really got on people's radars.
Yeah.
But Golden Gun, I think the movie has so much to like, and it has a moment that's always spoken about where James Bond is threatening Maud Adams and he's going to break her arm. And people, including Roger Moore, are like, I don't like this moment. It's harsh and all this, but it's like, I don't know. I've read the books. James Bond could be a real bastard. Sean Connery's Bond would definitely do that, which is why I feel it's very in continuity for Sean Connery to, I mean, in Dr. No, they're threatening to break Mrs. Tarot's arm. So it's very within that world where it's like, yeah, James Bond's threatened. He thinks the greatest assassin in the world is after him. I think he would do that, I mean, they'll lose that. And there is definitely a tonal swing because right after that, he's riding around with the greatest Bond character of all, Sheriff J.W. Pepper.
Go get him, boy! I'm sorry. I
love Sheriff J.W. Pepper. I think he's so funny. He's such a classic, like, Smokey and the Bandit is popular style character. We need to have like a weird southern racist sheriff, and he's going to partner with James Bond.
And he's taking a holiday in China. Okay.
He was in the last one and he was popular. Yeah. So, he's a carryover character.
Yeah. Right. Let's go back to the beginning, the main discussion. Let's get right into it then, people. I kind of really like the opening scene from the point of view that it's like this expression of like Scaramanga's ego in a way. So it's this kind of funhouse sequence where this kind of stereotypical like Italian-American gangster tries to kill Scaramanga in sort of a cat and mouse duel. Like, Scaramanga is going to like kill him, but it's more when and how. But what I liked about it is that like Nick Nack is kind of having a lot of fun here, literally. Like, the challenge is not the opponent. The challenge is for Nick Nack to make it really hard for Scaramanga, like locking the gun in the gun case and using kind of mirror tricks to hide his golden gun. There's like a few cool moves in there from Christopher Lee, but the joy of this scene for me is this kill zone setting, like it's a theme park ride, and the glee of like the challenge for Nick Nack. So yeah, it's a really different opening scene for your typical Bond film. It's really fun.
It's such a cool lair and like a
Yeah.
lair to think about, where it's like, he has this beautiful beachfront villa with like the best view on earth, and like underneath he's put money into above Disney level animatronics that shoot and work on command to test themselves in this
Mm.
crazy funhouse because he's the best assassin in the world and wants to keep his skills sharp. And he even put in a wax figure of, the man he wants to kill more than anyone else, just on like like the best boxer in the world. We want to fight the best boxer in the world to see who's the best. It's not even like, I hate James Bond because he did X, Y, and Z. It's like, I'm the best and I want to go against the best to see who wins. And I absolutely adore that aspect of this character and kind of these two men, where it's, you could put this is such a classic story. You could make this into a
Yeah.
traditional Western,
Oh
where it's
yeah,
like, I'm the
definitely.
best gunslinger. No, I'm the best. And they even duel 10 paces. Everything with
Mm.
Scaramanga and Bond is fantastic. The fun house is the most unique in the entire series for a villain lair.
Yeah, absolutely. We touched on it a little bit already, but I quite like the way kind of Roger Moore plays Bond in these first kind of 3 Bond films, especially before they get like ultra comedic, like in Moonraker. Here, there's like a lot more of an edge in places in his performance. Like I like the interrogation scene with kind of the bullet maker that he meets, where you have this kind of classic Roger Moore charm, but effortlessly gets serious when he needs to, when he turns the rifle around on him. And as you say, Brian, it's quite like he's quite aggressive when he's questioning Maud Adams in the film for the first time. Like he throws her around a lot and almost breaks her arm. So I like how kind of Roger Moore definitely feels more dangerous in this film, behind kind of that very British charm. And I think I haven't watched them in a while, but it feels like he kind of loses that a little bit in his last 3 films, really. But here he definitely feels like a posher, dangerous James Bond for sure. James Bond is the core of Bond is still really in this performance for sure.
Yeah, I think after this, he kind of like, I think he was uncomfortable with a bunch of things in the movie. And I've seen older
Right.
Roger Moore talk about it. There's a great clip where he's talking about the scene where he shoves the little kid into the water after like kind of ripping him off.
Oh yeah.
Where he's like, I'll give you 10,000 baht if you can fix the boat. And the kid flips a switch, and then rather than pay him, Bond just shoves him into the water and
Yeah.
keeps going. And older Roger Moore was like shaking his head. He's like, I'm a UNICEF ambassador now. I can't believe I did that. And it's like,
Yeah.
like he's like embarrassed about like his Bond kind of being a bastard. But to me, it really shows that like I think Roger Moore is a better actor than he gets credit for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think a lot of that is because his Bond kind of just becomes a cuddly teddy bear. And like, he famously in For Your Eyes Only, there's that amazing moment when he kicks the car over the cliff. He didn't want to do that. Roger Moore is like a sweetheart, and he like didn't want his Bond like killing in cold blood. And it's like, to me, that's the essence of the character, is that he is a cold-blooded killer. And like, I think he turns the character into something else. But I think early on, definitely these first 3 movies, he's the James Bond that we've seen from Dr. No,
What's
and
great
that's
about
why
that? Yeah.
these performances are special to me. And I think they show that like he's a good actor, but I think he got a little kind of high on his own supply, where it's like, being a role model and stuff like that, and making kind of movies that like everyone could like, where it's like James Bond should be a little more adult,
Yeah, I guess a little bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger in that sort of sense, where where he's always said he's enjoyed his comedies more than his action films. I don't know whether there's a little bit of just shame with that. I don't know, and embarrassment. I'm not really sure, but obviously he had a political career as well, so he was never one to like really talk about his action career. It was always his comedies that he loved to talk about. But yeah, that scene you mentioned in For Your Eyes Only, he didn't even need to kick the car down, because he just throws the pin in the car and it starts falling. So it makes it kind of even more brutal. But yeah, and also in The Man with the Golden Gun, you feel like Roger Moore as Bond feels a bit more uncomfortable, because in this film it's not about like saving the world, certainly not in the beginning. It's the fact that the plot is that Scaramanga wants to kill him. That's it. Like, Roger Moore plays it a bit more like he's under pressure, as you say, Brian, because it feels a bit more personal for James Bond here. You know, he's a bit like short and stern with Q and the other guy when they're trying to like figure out where the bullet was made. So it's an interesting kind of performance for Roger Moore in this for me. He kind of offers something slightly different. Then, of course, in the second half, it turns out that Maud Adams' character sent Bond the bullet to rescue her, and the plot becomes more of the traditional kind of Bond plot, you know, where Scaramanga wants to dominate the world with the solar energy technology that he's basically stole as well. So for me, like, the first half of the film feels better in terms of performance and story, as it feels a bit different than your average Bond film from that sense.
Yeah, it's this is the first time where, you know, it's spy versus spy, basically, you know, and I love that. And I think that Scaramanga, even in the first half, before he's really like around that much, is the best dark version of Bond that we get as a villain. Like, you know, we've had a couple like Sean Bean as Trevelyan in GoldenEye, and Silva in Skyfall, where they're like former agents who are now bad and Bond has to stop them. But I think Scaramanga is the best version of the mirror Bond, where they have a conversation where it's like, you know, you kill for money too. Don't just say it's your country. And he's like, you know, oh, I kill when I have to, something like that.
Yeah. Better than Silver for you from Skyfall then?
Oh, Scaramanga is probably in my top five Bond villains. So yeah,
Nice.
I mean, he might be even number one. I really love Scaramanga.
I always find it interesting that, like, during this era of Bond, that people kind of within the Secret Service community and even like the villains know who James Bond is, as I mentioned earlier. Like, they even explicitly say it in this film. You know, as a spy film, it's kind of ridiculous, but in terms of this Bond world that it exists in, I just find it quite fun still. And frankly, the film can't work without Scaramanga, not knowing who he is. But I do like the idea that nobody knows what Scaramanga actually looks like. And I like how the plot revolves around that as well a little bit. Like, and Bond does actually pretend to be him in a scene. And I find it, and, you know, and he finds out information about where the real Scaramanga is, but ends up being a trap. So it's quite a fun film in terms of identity and knowing who's who. You know, everyone knows who James Bond is and probably what he looks like. They don't really get into that, I don't think, and yet people are very aware of Scaramanga as well, but they don't know at all what he looks like, apart from that he's got a third nipple. Yeah, so it's interesting in that way.
Yeah, it's that fun professional world where it's like, it makes sense, because if James Bond is continuously like thwarting Spectre, and, you know, he's like known as like this badass like spy that like kills everybody and beats everyone's ass. Like, we even see in Diamonds Are Forever, there's that scene where Sean Connery's undercover and he kills the guy and he swaps his ID, and Tiffany Case picks it up and she goes, "You just killed James Bond. Oh my God."
Yeah.
Like, I like the idea that he's like this Baba Yaga figure in the spy world, where it's like, when James Bond is on your ass, you're fucked. You know, like, I love that.
Even though he's a spy. That's his profession. Yeah. Oh, well. So the parts of this film is set in like Hong Kong and Macau. And so certainly the action is definitely influenced by martial arts movies, as we said, from the 70s, like Enter the Dragon was huge at that time as well. Like, the film definitely feels like a Bond version of Enter the Dragon in a way. There's like a random like martial arts tournament sort of shoehorned in when Bond gets captured by sumo wrestlers. The action from kind of the real performers who are fighting with these kind of giant blades is really cool, actually. But everything that kind of follows with Bond feels a bit like Bond is being given the opportunity to put in his own strikes within the choreography within like a good amount of time for those moves. But I liked kind of the comedy notes where like these two girls like step forward to kick ass. Then I like how kind of the sequence ends where they hold up a guy for Bond to kind of knock out, but Bond just pushes him over. That always makes me laugh. Then like the Bond boat chase that follows does feel very tame for me, especially coming straight after Live and Let Die, where that had a fantastic boat chase. So there's a few like cool shots in there, but it's dominated by, you know, obviously J.W. Pepper comedy, which is, you know, has an acquired taste. But yeah, it's not.
I have
like when I think of The Man with the Golden Gun, I don't
so-
think of the best action scenes, if I'm honest.
I don't think this is I think the kung fu style choreography is all done very well. You know, they made the smart decision to just kind of sideline Bond for most of it rather than suddenly turn him into like a martial arts expert. Like he wins his kung fu fight more with smarts. Like when the guy bows to him, he kicks him right in the head, which I always love that beat. And then when they bring out the second guy, he just jumps out of the window to get out of here, which is funny. And then, you know, the other martial arts experts, they kind of beat everybody up and he just stands there and lets the girls fight. And then he knocks over the guy. And the boat chase isn't the best one, but it has some comedic moments, courtesy of J.W. Pepper. Bond pushing the little kid out of the water is funny. I think the best action sequence in the movie, without a doubt, is Bond in the AMC.
Yeah, the Hornet.
In that red car.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
something special, that whole chase. And we talked about it a little earlier, but that corkscrew stunt, you know, every time I show that to someone that hasn't seen it, it blows them away. It's really such a cool, breathtaking stunt. And for those that don't know, they drive this car. He's chasing Scaramanga, and Agent Goodnight is in the trunk, and Bond is trying to get there to save her. But the boot for
UK listeners.
English listeners. Yeah. So she's trapped in there, and Bond's trying to get to her, and they get away. And the only way Bond can catch up to them is by going over this bridge that's broken in half. And he drives on it, and the car does a perfect corkscrew to land between these two bridges. In really, incredible. It's one of my favorite stunts ever in all of cinema. It's so freaking cool. But they put in this slide whistle with the car flipping that goes as it lands. And every time I watch it, I'm like, why? And I had this talk with someone the other day, and they were like, they're trying to make a joke with that noise. And I don't know if they are. I don't think they're trying to do it to be funny. I think they're just like, I don't know what noise to put here in a 70s movie to really showcase how cool this stunt is. I think in a modern movie, they may just go with like an odd silence, like they may just kill the track.
Well, yeah, I think they would have just focused on like the sound design of the engine and the you know, the wheels hitting the bridge and stuff, and just really keep it natural.
Yeah, I think that's how a modern audience would want it. But in the 70s, you know, I don't know how the slide whistle played initially. I don't know if like critics were writing, you know, oh, there's a great sequence ruined with a slide whistle. I think they may have just took it as like a matter of fact thing, you know?
Yeah, maybe. With a hint of humor. I don't know. Yeah, I love the sequence as well. I don't want to say it's like the best Bond car chase that's ever been done by any means. There's definitely like a beautifully smooth like handbrake turn in there, which is great. They throw in like a random car crashing with the cops like crashing into it, cop cars crashing into it. That was cool. And there's some really great like low angle shots of the beautiful red AMC Hornet. That's a really cool car that Bond drives. In terms of like the geography of kind of how Scaramanga loses Bond isn't the best, I wouldn't say, but then you go from the sublime to the ridiculous, great stunt, and then as you said, and then when Scaramanga like puts the wings on his car is something you would expect Bond to do, but the way it kind of takes off kind of reminded me a lot of like Thunderbirds, the Jerry Anderson show. But the model work in the air is great for me, really great stuff. But But yeah, the highlight is the corkscrew stunt, which is definitely in my like top 3, top 5 best Bond stunts. Yeah, for sure.
It's it's just a sublime stunt. And what I love about Scaramanga putting the wings on his car and flying away, we always see Bond out gadget everybody, right? It's Bond would out gadget Scaramanga and fly away or do whatever.
Is that the first
little
time
Nelly
it's done in like film in Bond history? That the sort of the villain out gadgets Bond?
I think it's the first and only time we've seen a villain have his own toys
that's not
one
within
up Bond.
That's not within his own layer kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only time it's really been done. Like, well, Moonraker, she's an agent, but I always thought it would be cool to kind of one up this and have like the Bond villain or even just a henchman be like, the Russian version of Bond who has like his own exploding pen or cigarette or whatever. And like you have them kind of gadget dueling. I think you could like have a lot of friggin' fun with that. But I love the idea that Scaramanga is like the evil James Bond and he has his own car that can fly. And it's like I could picture Bond going back to Q and he's like, why don't we have a flying car? You know?
You just want to eject the passenger.
Yeah.
Yeah, some great stunt work there and model work. I really liked kind of the lunch scene near the end of the film before their grand duel. And like Scaramanga is talking about that he and Bond are basically the same, apart from Scaramanga earns far more money than him and takes more like, pleasure in killing people. And Scaramanga is almost trying to make Bond admit that he takes pleasure in killing people as well. But Bond, keeps his cards sort of close to his chest and says that he kills for duty and who are killers themselves, but admits he would take pleasure in killing Scaramanga, obviously. So I love how kind of Scaramanga is sort of trying to find out if Bond takes the same level of passionate pleasure in killing people like he does. As he's very much kind of respects and admires Bond as a killer. He doesn't like hate him really. There's no hate there. Other than, certainly Bond certainly doesn't like Scaramanga whatsoever. But in some ways, it's almost kind of like a self-examination of himself, but also kind of knowing Scaramanga is not going to get kind of the answer he craves. So I love kind of the subtle sort of intense performance from Christopher Lee at that table scene and just how all that is kind of written. I would have even loved to have with that scene to be a little bit longer so you can get a little bit deeper into those guys' psyche. But what we have is actually really interesting. One of my favorite scenes for sure.
Yeah, I could totally watch those two at dinner kind of sniping each other about like their psychology all day and how you feel about killing and like your views on it, whether you do it for country or money. It's like at the end of the day, Bond is still doing it for a paycheck. It's just not as much as his. And he's also mad because Scaramanga killed Maud Adams earlier.
Yeah.
So he's annoyed about that. And I love when like Scaramanga's like, all right, let's go have this duel. And Bond is like, well, I want to finish my lunch, He's like, after we eat. It's really great. Just, I love the two of them going at it. And Christopher Lee is such a cool actor and like great guy. Like he's a guy who could have played James Bond,
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
He and I'm glad he played a villain because he's such a great heavy. He's Count Dooku and Dracula and Saruman. He's phenomenal at that. He also is related to Ian Fleming. He's his second cousin. He served in British Special Forces in World War II, and like he was a real spy. He is James Bond basically. It's so sick to just have the two of them going at it and like having someone directly related to Ian Fleming as the villain in the last book that Fleming wrote, I think is like fitting in a way. Because this was the last Bond book that Fleming he never finished it. He died writing it. The version that exists is like pretty rough. Like I think he was going to do a couple more passes, but it's what we got, so they counted as his last book. But yeah, and Scaramanga has a cool background where he was a circus performer.
Yeah,
he became a hitman.
Yeah. just balancing on wires, and then you know what? I'm gonna kill people for a living. Yeah, the last action scene is interesting in a way, in the way it's kind of structured. Obviously, like the funhouse scene from the beginning is mirrored at the end here. Of course it is. And it plays out in a kind of similar way until Bond finds kind of a way onto the scaffolding and pretends to be kind of the Bond waxwork after a quick change. And Bond easily kind of shoots Scaramanga. I feel like they could have built up the tension a little bit more and had Scaramanga have a bit more to do rather than kind of the cameras trying to find Bond. Then I feel like they sort of give too much comedy and tension to Bond removing the Solex device from the solar energy machine, and they make sort of poor Brett Eklund look kind of really silly. Then kind of the model work and the exploding sets are always very impressive at the end of any Bond film, but you know, it's no different here. So yeah, I think the end is kind of a mixed bag. Some really great highs, but yeah, I feel like they could have eked out a little bit more with the end.
Like, I love the idea of the final duel where it's Bond against Scaramanga one-on-one, paces at dawn. You know, I adore that. I love the whole funhouse sequence. I like how Bond outwits him. I've watched the movie a million times, and I'm still puzzled by how Bond is able to do this. So Bond is under the set. He's on like these bamboo scaffolds. He drops his Walther PPK into an abyss, right? The gun is gone. The next time we see Bond, he's in the place of the mannequin that was there, the wax figure. Yeah. and he turns and shoots Scaramanga with the gun. So I'm always like, okay, did he go down and get his PPK from the abyss, come back, and then change and shoot Scaramanga? Or did the wax figure have a fully loaded Walther PPK that James Bond took, changed into the suit, which fit him perfectly, and shot Scaramanga?
Yeah, that's a lot of time that passes if he climbs all the way down, finds his gun. Because then, obviously, the geography is not really established. You don't know how far that is, and the relation, and where is that to where the waxwork is in that room. And then obviously he's got to change into his tuxedo. And obviously it makes sense that it fits because it's him. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, that's just a lot of time where Scaramanga is like, waiting for him to turn up.
Like, I don't, James Bond, like, I'm sure he can put on a suit quicker than me and get dressed. But that is like a full 3-piece suit. Under pressure in this funhouse that he's changing into as the best assassin in the world is after him. It's I love the idea of it more than probably the execution.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that on paper really works and is really cool. But when you stop and think about it, like in the movie, it totally works and it's good. But I've seen the movie a million times and we're dissecting it here. It's like, it really doesn't make sense how this is pulled off. But it's like, it's cool that he just turns and gets him. He outsmarts him. But it is weird.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter how he gets there. It's just, it's one of the very few Bond films where James Bond actually kills the main villain with his gun. And actually, my choice is that as well, where he kills the main villain with his Walther PPK. I don't remember another Bond film where he actually does that, so I think it's just these two, possibly.
It might be. I'm just running through it real quick in my head. Goldfinger, he shoots the window and he gets sucked out of the window, but it's not. He doesn't shoot him dead. Yeah, I think that might be it, really, which is interesting because usually they get hoisted on their own petard.
Rosa Klebb does get killed by his Walther PPK, but
not him.
Not him. Yeah, it's Tanya who shoots her. Anyway, favorite scene, Brian? What are you going for?
Real quick before we move on from the end. So the big chase finale where they blow up the lair. I like that Britt Eklund, she kind of, I want to defend her for a second because people are always like, she's a dumb ditz and whatever. But it's like, I don't know, like ditzes exist in the world. There's ditzy people. Not every
Mm.
Bond girl has been a ditz. A lot of them are super spies or, or women out for revenge, or there's all different types of people. Like, I don't have a problem with one Bond girl being like ditzy, and
Mm.
she's a newer agent. I think it kind of makes sense. And she's still competent. Like she takes care of that guy who was trying to kill her and he's much bigger than her. And she turns the
Yeah.
tables on him and beats him. And yeah, she kind of messes up with the Solex agitator and like ends up blowing up the base, but it's technology she doesn't understand. And Britt Eklund is also a trooper. If you watch the explosion they're in, you'll see her fall to the ground as the
Yeah.
explosions are going off. She really fell, and that was really Roger Moore scooping her up basically and being like, "We gotta fucking move," like, because she was gonna get
There's
caught
more
in the
explosives
explosion.
coming.
He essentially saved her life, or at least
Yeah.
from a really bad injury. So she's a trooper. Like, I love her in this, and she gets a bad rap. And the real finale of the movie is her and Bond are on a boat, and they're finally gonna have sex. And it turns out Nick Nack is there, and he's mad because Bond blew up his inheritance,
Yeah.
and he's the henchman who outlived the villain, which is always fun. And I love him taking out the knife and trying to kill Bond, and Bond traps him in a
Yeah,
suitcase
it's
and
kind of
hoists
funny.
it up to the I don't know what you call it, the stern of the ship. But he
Yeah.
has him in there at the very top in like the crow's nest, and Bond goes back down. And Nick Nack is one of the few henchmen to live through the entire movie. He doesn't
Yeah.
die.
Yeah. We want him back. I want him back.
I'll take Nick Nack back any day.
Absolutely.
My favorite scene in the movie, it's tough. I really love the duel at the end, despite the shoddy execution. I just love the idea of Bond in this fun house trying to outsmart the villain and pulling it off. I think it's really so cool.
My favorite scene is kind of the first scene where Bond meets Scaramanga and at that kickboxing match for the first time, and there's this kind of mutual respect that they have for each other, especially from Scaramanga. He says he has nothing against him, and he seems to enjoy talking to Bond and meeting him, like he's one of his idols. I've always loved kind of these ego charm battles Bond has with the villains, and Christopher Lee has such amazing presence in this film. Like every scene he's in, you feel like something bad is going to happen with that smile he has as well. Plus, I kind of love that very kind of haunting image of Maud Adams like dead in her seat, completely still. That certainly stuck with me on this watch in particular. Just it's a very little scene, but like it's a really nice one that for me.
Yeah, that is a cool scene. I love Scaramanga being like, "Hey, we don't have to like do this. I don't have to kill you.
Right
It's
away.
professional courturity. I'm not after you. You thought I was because of her. Let's call it and go about our days."
Yeah.
But Bond obviously isn't going to abide that.
Yeah. Directing score for me, I think there's some really great stuff in there. The end is like a little bit rushed, I guess. I would have liked a little bit more of a bit of more of a suspense sequence between Scaramanga and Bond rather than the comedy stuff, but I get it. But yeah, the stunt work is exceptional as always. So I'll give it like a 7.3 for me.
Okay. Who
How about
did
you,
this
sir?
one? Is this Guy Hamilton?
Yeah.
Okay. The man who brought us Goldfinger also brings us the man with the golden gun. All right. Tough. I mean, that stunt is so good. I'm going to go 7.7. I think he's capable of better than this, and some things are kind of shoddy and not perfectly handled, but it's kind of what I love about the Bond series is there's always such variance within the film set and within the films themselves. From scene to scene, things will be wildly different. So 7.7.
Yeah, the corkscrew stunt definitely brings the score up.
Yeah.
Favorite lines, Brian? There are plenty.
Knick-knack Tabasco.
He does have one distinguishing feature. However, a superfluous papilla. A what? A mammary gland. A third nipple, sir. Is always a good one near the start. I mean, sir, who would pay $1 million to have me killed? jealous husbands, outraged chefs, humiliated tailors. The list is endless. It's always a funny one.
It's a good line.
One that always makes me laugh. You really do have a magnificent abdomen. While he's kissing that girl's
Yeah,
abdomen.
he gets the. It's such a goofy moment where he swallows the bullet.
Yeah. That gives me an idea as to how to approach him. Cool, I'll need this. Really, 007? I admit it's a little kinky. It's great. Goddamn little brown water hog. From Pepper, I think. Have you got any?
What is he? He calls them dually birds at one point, I think, which I don't understand what it is. You goddamn dually birds! Yeah. I've never heard that in my life except this movie.
A gun and a bag of peanuts. How original. What will they think of next? You're not thinking of, I sure am, boy. And cooks.
That, I absolutely adore that moment with the two of them, with Sheriff J.W. Pepper so over the top and Bond's mock American accent. I sure am, boy.
When like Scaramanga is showing Bond around his lair and all the sort of the power units with all the liquid helium in it, and he's like, oh, this should run a few electric toothbrushes. And one of my favorite kind of lines from Scaramanga is in that lunch scene before they duel it out. You see, Mr. Bond, like every great artist, I want to create an indistributable masterpiece once in my lifetime. The death of 007. Mano a mano, face to face, will be mine. That was a great little line there from Scaramanga for me, for sure.
So cool.
Yeah. Screenplay score for me, it's got its fair share of great like Bond quips, and I certainly appreciate sort of the first half of the film where it's kind of really, it feels kind of very unique, where it just seems like James Bond has been marked for death by the main villain, and it's just like, what? I'm supposed to save the world, not try and figure out who's trying to kill me. So that was always quite interesting. And then obviously we get a normal, pretty generic, very generic, to be honest, Bond plot that develops in the second half. So I think from that perspective, it's not the best, and maybe the action scenes are not the best written, but like I love the idea of the fun house and how that, it bookends the film. So from a writing perspective, I think it is quite a mixed bag. So I'll probably go like a 6.8.
Yeah. It's definitely a mixed bag. It's messy. The plot is kind of hard to follow. I've seen it a million points. The Solex agitator really, like, other than trying to be a stereotypical Bond movie where he saves the world at the end, it really didn't need to be there, and you could still tell the same story basically, and everything would work and be a little tighter. But they want that MacGuffin, and it's messy. I'm gonna go 7.
Yeah, sure. Favorite performance, Brian? Who are you going for?
I gotta go Christopher Lee.
Yeah, same. Christopher Lee for me, one of the most iconic Bond villains for sure. And as we've said, like Christopher Lee makes this film. I think if you don't have Christopher Lee in this, it becomes like it goes down people's lists. I know you said at the top of the show that this is kind of one of a lot of people's worst Bond films, but I don't see how you can say that from my perspective when you have Christopher Lee in it. So yeah, Christopher Lee for sure.
Right behind Chris Lee, because it's very, very close for me, is Roger Moore in this one. Like, I love his Bond in this. Like, it's perfect for me.
It's just a kind of a different look where, like, he feels under pressure. He feels threatened. Certainly in that first half of the film, in the beginning. Because even with Live and Let Die, you feel like he's a great Bond in that, but you feel like he is kind of finding his feet a little bit into the character. What's his Bond going to look like? Whereas this, you feel like by the end of that film, okay, this is where we are with Roger Moore. Like, it's slightly a bit more lighthearted, but the main crux of the character is still there with Roger Moore, and you feel like he's very comfortable with the character already, even in his second film. So you feel like he can play with the character a little bit more and actually be a bit more nuanced here. And certainly in the next one, he kind of brings it a little bit further with the characters he interacts with, and then
I think this one
with the comedy stuff. So.
I think this one was a real test when they're making it, and they're like, okay, live and let die. We get him through the door. With this one is like the pressure test to see how dark we can get with a Roger Moore Bond, and then they're able to come up with the sweet spot in the next one. I kind of feel that's the general consensus, but I love the Bond performance in this one.
I mean, I feel like from an acting point of view with Roger Moore that he's got to kind of step up anyway, because he's acting opposite Christopher Lee. He's kind of a legendary actor at this point. I feel like he has more status than Roger Moore at this point in both of their careers. So, I feel like there's just pressure from making this film in the first place.
You're going against Hammer Dracula, man.
Absolutely. Acting score, I think I'll probably go a little bit higher, probably my best score. So I'll go like 7.7.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to go pretty high with this one because I really like all the performances in the movie. Like honestly, I love Bernard Lee in this. Every performance to me in this one is like exactly the tone I want. Like, I love Bernard Lee as M in this one, where he has that moment where he's like, if you go on vacation and you happen to get him before he gets you, and we're just saying, like, I love that. Christopher Lee is great. Sheriff J.W. Pepper, every line of I was watching it. Every line of dialogue that he has almost had me laughing my ass off. It's so stupid and goofy, but I can't help it. That man makes me laugh. I love his interactions with Moore, and I love Christopher Lee. I love Hervé Villechaize. I love Britt Eklund. I love Maud Adams. I'm gonna go 8.8 for this one because I really, really love all the performances.
Cool. Right, let's add up the scores then for The Man with the Golden Gun.
Math, ugh.
Yep. The Man with the Golden Gun gets an impressive 45.3.
Out of what?
60.
Okay, that's respectable.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be a tight one, people. We'll come back for part 2 where we are talking The Spy Who Loved Me. That's it for part 1. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 2 to see who wins. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell me what your favourite films are relating to the episode. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for X at FVF_podcast. Plus, we are now on YouTube, so hit that like button and comment there. If you do, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off.